Okay, so what's the deal with white? We hear it all the time. Subreddits blow up about it. Videos are flooding YouTube. Creators are talking about it on Twitch. We all know what's wrong with white dish. You're late to the party. I know. Hey everyone, welcome to the knowledge pool of Think Tank for games and magic. So yes, I know I'm late. I've seen the command zones casts on White and Commander. I saw Pleasant Kenobi's video on White's shortcomings. And when I started this video, it actually predated all of those. As a matter of fact, it was going to be my first episode of Knowledge Pool. This is how it started. And I want to break down some fallacies of this situation and also educate on what is the real problem with White. Recently, when I'm why is White so underpowered? We've tried very hard. It is not great. And by the end, it kind of felt like this. Why? Because I had so much to say. It felt so important. And it's so aggravating that I could not put it all into words. But we're 5 videos in. I'm feeling more confident about my editing skills, and I want to talk about this in a way the other creators haven't, and I think I know how. So, Mark Rosewater, God-level magic man, your best friend and mine, created an article in 2017 outlining the primary, secondary, and tertiary mechanics of each color. I want to go through some things about White in this and talk about the inherent boiled-down problems with White. What it does, what it doesn't do, and what someone could do to fix it. Now, these mechanics were left with a lot of caveats as to what makes them primary or whatever. But we're going to talk about some big ones, show off some cards that exemplify them, probably using Arena, and we'll wrap it all up in the end. Cool? Okay. It was so bad. Let's get the big one out of the way. Number 1, life gain. For many, the first thing they think of when they think of White is life gain. Life gain and lifelink are both on the list together, with many White abilities focusing on, when life gain, do something. So here's the issue. Life gain rarely wins games. Without some devastating effects or board presence, which wins you the game regardless, gaining 10, even 15 life doesn't stop an opponent's presence. It stalls, trying to draw you into a win, but the more life gain you use, the less likely you are to have that win. I was given some good ideas on the best life gain effects and cards on Arena, but for my pick, Sarah Ascendant is the best example of what life gain does. A 1/1 flying for 1 is a card that a lot of people would play already, but when you have enough life, it's a 6/6 flyer, which can devastate a game. It also shows the inherent problem. If you have a lead on life, you get a really bomb creature. But if your strategy of outpacing the opponent's damage isn't working, it's no better than a single fairy miscreant in a color with far less accessibility to tricks. Number 2, big behinds and blockers. This is my least favorite strategy in White. It's not just a mechanic, but a design choice of having toughness much bigger than the power of a given mana cost. Yoked Ox is a good example. It doesn't kill anything, being a 0/4, but it doesn't die to anything in its cost grouping. The auras, global enchantments, and combat trick spells tend to follow this suit, with a +1/+X mentality of giving a little power, but a lot of survivability if blocking or being blocked. Some effects that switch power with toughness or assigns toughness for damage exist, and can suddenly make these big-bootied creatures mana-efficient bombs. Now, all creature-based strategies have the problem of dying to removal, and I'm not trying to say depending on creatures to win isn't viable. I'm saying depending on weak creatures to win isn't viable, at least not in a defensive capacity. A 0/4 for 1 will probably protect your life points for a few turns, until your opponent can go wide or remove the problem. But without evasion or protection, it'll eventually get broken through without contributing to your win con. The best card of this type on Arena, in my opinion, is a tie between Oketra, God Eternal, and Zatalpa, Primal Dawn. Both have low power based on their cost, but their survivability is increased by other effects, which brings us to the next grouping. Number 3, First Strike, Double Strike, and Indestructible. These are my favorites of white strength because it actually shows strength. Look at this. Look at this. On the limited side, First Strike and Double Strike tend to be inefficiently costed. But when putting it into a constructed theme, you get bombs with a fair chance of surviving and a shot at winning. Indestructible creates scenarios where your opponent has to be clever with their removal. And even cards with a cost for Indestructible see play. I don't think we should have a ton of Double Strike and Indestructible, but it is at least a white-centric ability that helps its overall themes. Speaking of themes, number 4, Tribal themes and small gains. White has awesome soldiers and knights, and I like making small creatures get big and turning them sideways. This deck usually tends to have a wide strategy, making a bunch of little tokens, making those tokens bigger with cards like this, and then you have a lot of medium threats that make your opponent's head explode, figuratively. While this strategy is fragile on the sideboard, when it is working, it is devastating as a quick finisher. But that said, it is very fragile. If your opponent bounces or kills the right creature, chump blocks are now trading or better. And since white is not the draw color, losing board presence can wipe out your ability to bounce back from control matches. But white can also delve into control forms. Very, fair ones? Number 5, Symmetrical control and taxation. So you know what's fun about blue and black control? It's permanent. Your opponent goes, oh, I'm going to play this. And you go, nuh-uh, and they cry, and you laugh, and that's why my friends don't want to play my black decks. But white's control is really temporary. So first they get these tappers. They tap to tap something. And sometimes that's really good. You get to keep your opponent from attacking, maybe sneak in a cheeky attack with something with low power. But it's usually only for a turn, and if you don't utilize your mana or timing right, it can be useless. It's very easy to play around. White also gets exile. Being able to permanently remove a threat from the game is boss and cool and extra useful. But most of white's exile is temporary. It has a caveat like Prison Realm. It gets rid of the thing until they get rid of your thing, which can be troubling to some colors, looking at you, black. But when managed by the rest of the color pie, the threat returns and you stalled again. Same thing with cards like Pacify. You stall them while they don't have an answer. But enchantment hate exists. Permanent destruction exists in all forms of the color pie. You know what's more fun than playing hide and seek with a creature? Killing a creature. Bouncing a creature. What's the last playable removal in white at instant speed? Settle the Wreckage? Well, actually, that's pretty good, but it still requires your opponent to be doing something. Permanent removal in white often has worse problems. Like the creature exiled has to be big, or it has to be small, or it has to be red, or it has to be black, or give your opponent's life, whatever. White also has symmetrical control. There's cards that hit both you and your opponents, keeping all of you from playing more than one card a turn or drawing for all players. If you have one spell better than your opponent's each turn, that's bonus. If you don't, well, at least they won't storm? Do you have bigger answers in white to play each turn? On top of symmetrical control, taxation is a big deal too. Keeping your opponent from doing stuff unless they pay something is pretty cool, and it's a better stall tactic than most in white. Smothering Tithe and Archon of Absolution are examples of playables that can create a huge disadvantage for your opponent. But for a lot of decks, it's usually an annoyance that they eventually overrun. Yes, I will pay 10 mana to attack with 10 creatures for lethal. Anything else, sir? That said, it's a viable strategy in some formats, and can create good synergies when used right. But it's all very fair, isn't it? And that's sort of the point of all this. While other colors try to dominate your opponents by breaking the rules, white tries to make things fair. It's a color of balance and punishment, One that wounds only when wounded, sets rules that both sides have to follow, temporarily jails cards, and hits the let's start over button with board wipes. But it doesn't break the balance. It doesn't recur a down comrade without caveat. It doesn't take out your opponent's threats fast or efficiently. It rarely plays bomb diggity creatures. And in formats that it does, it dominates. Sun Titan was a beast in Scar's standard. Stoneforge Mystic was so good, they limited you to playing it only with the cards from the starter deck it came from. So how do we balance it into something playable but not broken? I wish I had an answer. If it were easy to balance the color pie, it would always be balanced. I have suggestions, some ideas. Here's something that got brought up in a Twitch chat the other day. Amazonian and her chat were helping me out while she was playing against Narset, and she posed a question. Why isn't Narset white? The draw limitation is obviously a white effect. Other multiple color planeswalkers are hybrid mana in War of the Spark. So why isn't Narset white? I started thinking about this and my brain reeled. Why isn't Narset white? And don't try that whole, oh dish, they needed to make an uncommon blue planeswalker for cycle stuff. They made up like 20 planeswalkers for this set. They didn't need to use our Jeskai Identity Walker as a mono blue planeswalker. On top of that, why isn't taxation for draw white? Rhystic Studies? There could be an effect like that in white. There should be an effect like that in white. Maybe not in standard, because that would rock the house too hard, but they make modern sets. Why not? Who says Elspeth's Sun Champion was too good? I mean, a lot of people said that, but there's something between her and Teo that can balance what white does well without hurting folks' feelings, right? We can do better than Gideon Blackblade, right? Right? Why is this so bad? Well, that's what I think, but tell me what you think. I put a lot more into this video, and I'm sorry it took so long. But tell me what you think of the new format. What's good, what's bad, what's white, anything you like. I've been Dish, and everybody out of the pool.